Greetings, folks. On Horm here with a replay in my Tier 7 German cruiser, the Yorck. I am divisioned up with Jimmy Jazz in the Leningrad, the Tier 7 premium Soviet destroyer. We are in a standard battle on Two Brothers, and we're going to head out to the east flank to support that side. I'm not going to use this game or this match to talk, at least for the first half of the match, to talk about something I think is quite good and quite important. So on this past Saturday, World of Warships announced in their developer blog on Facebook that they were planning to introduce, or they were system testing, some new game modes. And I think these game modes are precisely to help address what standard battle and this battle exemplifies, is very sort of static, dry play that can occur. And so for this particular battle, and I'll put up the lineups here. Each team's got 4 battleships, 6 cruisers, and 2 destroyers with no CV, and we're top tier. And I'll put up my my commander skills and ship build. But I'll use this match in the first half of this match, which is really pretty dry and static, to talk about these new game modes that are in system testing right now. So, and I'll include a link to the developer blog post in the description below. So there are 6 modes that are being tested, and I think these are precisely intended to try to bring teams together to engage in much more dynamic and much more active gameplay than standard battle and certain other game modes have tended to encourage, or at least foster. So the first game mode, and I'm going to read a little bit from the developer blog post here. The first game mode is that from the beginning of the battle, a zone that becomes progressively smaller appears on the map. Inside this zone, ships are constantly repaired. Outside of it, constantly damaged. We already discussed this one, so I'm reading from the blog post, but exact parameters have been tweaked a bit. So this is probably the best example of a game mode that really says you have to engage closely. You have to play against each other and be in close quarters, or gradually increasingly close quarters. Because if you're outside this zone, your ship is constantly being damaged and you're going to suffer, and your team's going to suffer as a result. And so you really have almost a compelling a motive to stay inside that zone that is getting increasingly smaller, and are forced to engage each other. So I think that's quite interesting. The second alternate mode that's being tested is, it says that one team defends against the other. The defending team uses vehicles 1 or 2 tiers above the attackers. Defenders have repair zones, but attackers can respawn after being destroyed. And it says the defending team has to hold for 10 minutes and save the support ships. Attacking team needs to take out all of the defending vehicles and 5 key ships, and key is in quotation marks. So I kind of read this as a little bit not dissimilar to, let's say, like the killer whale operation, where one team kind of acts as the attacking group to get into a harbor, to try to take everything out that's within the harbor, and everything that's within the harbor is trying to preserve itself and keep certain ships from being killed. So I think this is intended to try to force teams that they have to engage. They can't just sit back and kind of spam from long range like I'm kind of trying to do right now in the Yorck, in the game that you're watching. The third alternate mode says it's similar to the second mode, but players do not respawn after losing their ships. Attackers need to push in particular directions and destroy repair zones, and defenders need to prevent the attackers from doing that. So again, a slight alternate mode. I don't know if maybe the tiers for both the attackers and defenders in this case are the same tiers and not disparate tiers. I'm not sure. The fourth alternate mode is each side has 3 forts, an airfield, repair base, and 3 special ships that have very high HP. Those ships move toward the enemy base, and after reaching it, start their attack. Airfields have numerous planes and groups that are launched regularly. It says victory is attained by reaching either 1,000 points, making the enemy lose all of their points, or destroying all of the enemy vehicles. And then most points are awarded for sinking enemy ships and destroying their buildings. So I don't know if this is a little bit like, with forts being a little bit like Bastion was. The forts provide some supporting artillery fire. It doesn't say what these 3 special ships are. I can only guess that maybe they're super-powered aircraft carriers or something, or battleships. Maybe they're high HP battleships that participate in the battle. It's not entirely clear, but it's supposed to be very active engagement mode, I think, between the teams. Alternate mode 5, it says the attackers and defenders are in hotspot. Defenders need to reach a base, activate it, and activate a repair zone. And then attackers start from the other side of the map, and they are followed by a local weather event. So I read local weather event to be something like we see with the Hermes operation that was introduced with the French Arc, that reduces visibility, increases dispersion, and has some other interesting effects in the game. It says the main objective is to take control of the inner defense line and hold it. Receive points for for control. Battle is finished after one team accumulates 1,000 points or disposed of all the enemy ships. Defending team may win if defense line is clear of enemies for 2 minutes. This requirement becomes active 5 minutes after the battle begins. So again, I think that's probably an idea to prevent the attackers from sort of stalling and trying to lure the defenders out of some safety before they attack, and kind of just use a waiting game to control things. And then it says the attacking team may win by capturing the defender's base. So obviously, if they're able to successfully push in and capture a defender's base, then they win as well. And then the 6th mode that they've listed here is, it says slightly modified mode. I assume from the alternate mode 5, where control areas spawn at the line of contact between the 2 teams. Control areas spawn at particular time intervals, and useful effects are activated once those areas are captured. If the number of ships from different teams is equal in an area, it is not activated until one team has more ships than the other in there. So again, I think this is probably something like, rather than just having one undetected destroyer moving into an area and capturing it like we do today, you actually have to force teams to go in an area actively to control it, and it can't just be having one team or one individual or another blocking or taking a cap or taking a control area. So a lot of interesting potential modes here. I'm very excited about trying some of these out. It doesn't say in the announcement when these will be available to us from a testing perspective on the test server, and certainly not available to us on the production server. But given that it is in system testing, tells me that we're probably a release or 2 away, or an update 2 away before we have access to these. So I'm really looking forward to this. I hope that you can find them interesting as well. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to transition back to the game, because as you saw, things were really pretty static for the first several minutes of the match. We're already 10 minutes in, and we've lost a few ships on each side. There's 3 on each side. In fact, I came back to our cap because a T-22 on the opposing team had pushed toward our cap, and I wanted to help support our Nicholas to get that threat out of the way. But now the situation has become significant for our team, because we now have a 2-ship deficit. So immediately after, or nearly immediately after sinking the opposing T-22, we lose 2 more ships on the east flank. Or I think maybe there's one on the east flank and one on the west flank. But in any case, we have a significant deficit, and Jim and I think that maybe the only option now is for us to go down the middle and start to contest their cap, because we can't continue to play sort of the very static park and camp and snipe and hope that you get something sunk mode. We actually have to make a play now because we are behind. So the Nicholas and I are going to sail up the center channel here. My threats are it's mainly the battleships is my biggest concern. So there's going to be a Texas on the west side, and we have this New Mexico that now has taken some significant damage. It's down to about a quarter of its health. So I'm going to move over to sort of the west edge of the channel so that I have some defense against any ships coming from the west side, and I'm going to put fire on the New Mexico and the Fiji and try to help get them out of the map. Now the Nicholas, unfortunately, I do run into him. I was making a very conscious effort here to stay on the west side of the channel so that I would prevent any ships on the west, opposing ships on the west flank, from being able to shoot at me. Jim is able to land some torpedoes on the New Mexico, sinking the opposing New Mexico. The Nicholas drops smoke. I'm not sure whether that was a defensive reaction on his part or whether he was trying to, elicit some good team play by smoking me up so I could put some fire on the ships. But either way, unfortunately, the smoke is not very effective. I'm going to creep into the cap here. I'm going to put my plane up because we had lost visibility on some of the ships, and I am the Texas is basically full health, and their Duke of York is, I think, about half of its health left. There are 3 ships on the northeast corner, ashores of Fiji, and I believe it's a Normandy, or maybe it's the Scharnhorst. Yeah, in fact, I do it. No, it's the Scharnhorst. So again, we have a 2-ship deficit here. Our Nicholas has gone out, frankly, a little bit on a suicide run. I think his intention was to try to ambush torp the Texas. We lose our Graf Spee on the west flank to, I believe, the Nuremberg. We have there's a Nuremberg that's on the west side of our cap, and our shores, which has thankfully remained in our cap, is now defending that. The Nicholas on our team does go down to the Texas, and again, obviously my play here is really boring. I'm just kind of like sitting in their cap, stalling any point advance that they have, although it's a little bit fruitless. We don't have visibility on any ships at this point. But I am very concerned about where the Texas is. The Texas does show up. I'm debating whether I go out and I try to do a torp run myself, although the Texas is kind of angling away from me a little bit, so he's got plenty of room to maneuver. I get spotted here, and now I realize, okay, I'm going to end up being in a crossfire between the Texas and the Fiji, and I can bow tank the Fiji. I can't bow tank the Texas. So I tried to send torps on the Texas. The torp indicator says that my torps are good to go, but they hit the island and don't go anywhere. I'm forced to back up here, and now I'm going to engage the Texas. We got 5 ships aiming at me, including the Scharnhorst. The Scharnhorst can't overmatch me. I'm kind of hoping that dispersion at that range is going to make it hard for him to get a good salvo on me. The Fiji's very low health, and Jim is doing a good job helping to keep the pressure up on the Fiji to help take him down. I was hoping the Fiji would go turn broadside here. That's why I fired AP, but he is going to keep his angle on me, so I switch back to HE here. And again, I'm having to keep my bow on. I still have 4 ships shooting at me, and I'm getting kind of chipped away here by the Fiji, and here comes another shot in from the Scharnhorst. Thankfully, our shores, which had been in our cap, took out the Nuremberg, the opposing Nuremberg that was pushing toward our cap. The Shores, I think, is now going to be working on the opposing Yorck, which is about to enter on the west side of his cap. And almost got the Fiji down now. The Fiji's burning. He has not damaged Khan, so I'm assuming that he can't. And my fire is going to burn him out. Now, the Scharnhorst is still visible to me. The Texas can't quite fire on me, so I do expect at this point that the Fiji has sent torpedoes. And I'm just going to back up here and try to ensure and get into the sort of little pocket that's on the cap or in the channel, and hope that any torpedoes that are sent cannot hit me, or I can thread. So I've got 3 battleships in front of me. Yes, the Yorck technically has the turtle back, and here come the torpedoes from the Fiji. But it's a 16 millimeter bow. It can be overmatched by all battleships, of any tier, frankly. Here comes another salvo from the Texas. He gets some pens on me. There's not much I can do. Thankfully, the Duke of Yorck has his guns pointed at the shores. I do take another salvo from the Scharnhorst. So I'm going to put the shots in on the Duke of Yorck. I fully expect at this point I'm going to die, so I'm just kind of farming damage as best I can. There's only 3 of us at this point. I do pop hydro now because I'm expecting torpedoes from the opposing Yorck or the Scharnhorst or both. I'm able to get the Yorck down. The Duke of Yorck is now Notzered. And again, I was hoping that my torpedoes would make it, and unfortunately one of them does land on the stern of the Duke of Yorck. I'm lucky if I can survive another salvo from the battleships. I'm going to send on the Scharnhorst. Again, I was expecting that the Scharnhorst would turn, but he's actually got his guns, but he does have his guns turned toward me, but it's the Texas that finishes me off. So it's just Jim and the Shores against 2 battleships and the opposing shores. Now, as luck would have it, all of my torpedoes land true, and I earn a Kraken Unleashed, and it's just a flesh wound achievement. I didn't do a lot of damage in this battle. I was doing a lot of sort of garbage collection on getting lower health ships, but we've now turned this into a 2-on-2 match. Jim has sent torpedoes on the Texas. Texas looks like he is going to take some, and he in fact does, and he's gone. And so now we've turned it into a 1-ship advantage. Jim is very healthy. I trust his gunnery extremely well. He's very good as a Leningrad captain. So now we have established a lead. I'm a little bit anxious here because you can see I type in the chat. It's like, okay, we have the lead. We can just run now. I tend to be pretty conservative on this gameplay because I don't want to now lose an effort where we did make a play and we were able to turn the game around. And in fact, I say, hey, Jim, we've got the lead now, but we've now spotted the shores. He's run into the island here. In fact, his engine is running. So I think we realize at this point that he's actually AFK. We don't know if he had to go, personal emergency and he had to step away, but Jim is able to get the last few shells in on on the shores and take him out, and we win the match. So very interesting match. Again, not particularly stupendous in terms of my own performance. I did get a Kraken out of it. In fact, the Shores on our team comes in top. He made some really key contributions to the match to being able to help us win. And so thanks to him or her. and I'll leave the screens up for my results from this match. So I hope you found this review and this discussion interesting. Please leave your comments below. Hope to see you out there, and happy sailing.